irresistible, magnetic, irresistible. When I look through your eyes, not even skies the limit. I used to be satisfied, stayed over the surface. Now I just can't get enough. You make me feel like no other. I just want everyone to see what I've discovered. And when I'm with you, I go higher. You lift me up, now I can see so much farther. You're on the horizon.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm very sorry. I was just getting the last few things as I hit live. My mic fell off and just a few other things happened. I'm very sorry. I do apologise. I hope I didn't upset you too much. Welcome in any way, and thank you for joining me. This, I hope, will turn into an open discussion. As you can see by if you read the things that I said, I have issues with the way, including myself, and I'm not, look, we've all done it. I've done it. Other people have done it. And to be honest, it's really not helping these cases, if we're honest about it. So somewhere, and I mean, there are really good true crime creators out there, don't get me wrong, who have empathy and ethics. Unfortunately, there are not as well. And it is a huge difference between cases that are covered properly and victims aren't used for personal gain by these creators, sadly. And then once they've got what they wanted from them, they just move on to the next case, sadly. And these victims are just left. The other thing I'll be covering is what is advocacy, because everybody wants to claim they're an advocate. That haven't got a certificate to be an advocate. I do, however, but I still would not get involved with these families. They are dealing with enough. And I think we need to change the way we cover these cases, stick to facts, stop accusing people of doing these crimes, or the victims, stop accusing victims, and think about how you're re-victimizing them in what you're saying. It is their life. They are real people. It is their story to tell, not mine or anybody else's. It's not about my emotion or anybody else's emotion. The other thing is people saying in missing children's cases, I love that child. A child you never met. And this is where I have an issue, because you have empathy for that child. You care about that child, but it's not love. Their parents love that child. Well, some parents, not all, but some in these cases. But that's not up to us to judge. I want you to think. First of all, I'm going to ask whoever is in here, if you don't mind, if you want to answer. If you don't, I fully understand. Have you ever been a victim of a crime? Any crime at all? If you have, can you type 1 in chat for me, please? Right, thank you. So, first of all, I'd like to say I'm sorry that anybody has been a victim of a crime. It is, regardless of what the crime is, you can't make people understand what that feels like. And people deal with things differently. I have been a victim of a crime. In fact, I've been a victim of a crime when I was younger. I've also had children that were victim of crimes, too. So I know what that feels like. And mine were many years ago before we had the internet or anything like that. And I know just hearing gossip around the area that at that time I really didn't care what anybody was saying because I was focused on the task at hand. So if you don't know about my story, my 2 children went missing for nearly 7 months when they were young. And yes, I broke down the first day. The next day, I did everything that I was told not to do. I went searching for my children. I went banging on doors. I went everywhere. I did not stop, but that is me. And during the times that I was out there looking for my children, not one person would have seen me break down or cry. I was so angry and so focused that I was going to find my children. And yes, the police were involved. And thank God, and I praise the police, the federal police, who did an outstanding job in tracking down my children that were taken out of this state. And I was given less than 12 hours to get to that state to pick up the children, early hours of the morning, because the police just stormed in, grabbed the children, bring them out to me in the police car, was taken back to the police station, signed statements and whatnot, and then was told to get out of the state. Not their fault. I fully understand why. But they checked on me. They rang me for weeks. In fact, we become very good friends. So I know what it's like to be in that position. I know after it, I got the children back and I had time to sit down and breathe. I broke, but never around my children, never around other people. So I would guarantee that if it was now, people would say that I was an uncaring mother, that I didn't really care about my kids, etc., etc. What people don't understand is everybody deals with things differently. There are some people who can't move. They are physically paralyzed by, not knowing where their child is or losing the loved one from a crime. There are others that will pull themselves together in public, behind closed doors, completely different. That doesn't mean they're guilty of anything. That's one of my biggest issues, is the accusing of victims and putting them at risk. The digging into their families, their friends, and putting it all out in the open. People that have nothing to do with the crime. But even as parents of missing children, I can honestly say that if back then somebody put my address out there, floor plans of my home, and I had people turning up there, you have to consider this person's child is missing, and now you have strangers turning up. How do you think you would feel? You don't know whether the people turning up are people that have taken your child. You don't know if they've had anything to do with it. And then what's worse is you don't know who you're talking to on here, who is listening to you, who it might just go that extra mile. I mean, we know that victims of crimes have had death threats in the past. So I don't want to be guilty of not knowing that somebody was listening to me and I accused somebody of a crime before police ever arrested them or anything. And somebody decides to go, you know what? Let me cure that. Let me act on the threat. I don't want that on my conscience. And it's not worth the amount of money. I'm sorry, it's just not. I don't like the misinformation that's given. We need to stick to facts. These same creators feel they're better than police and know more than what police know. And they are actually dangerous in the sense that the problems they cause in these cases, the misinformation they put out there and the accusations, people in their chats ring police and report this stuff. So then the police, time is wasted going through reports that should never have been put in. But sadly, it keeps happening. If you're going to do something based on you need to stick to facts. We need to stop putting out our thoughts. I mean, sure, you're entitled to it, free speech and all. But let me put it this way. As I said and asked you earlier, if you've been a victim of crime, could you imagine whatever happened to you, and once again, I apologise to anybody that has been a victim of crime. Trust and believe you did not deserve it, and you are a survivor. But I would like you just to think for a moment that if your crime, whatever happened, become internet, covered by internet true crime creators that put your story out there, dug into your family, your friends, put up your address, your house, how would you feel? Because this is what I don't understand. They're happy to call these people unalivers and say they caused something to happen. Like I said, before police have even arrested anybody. Like, they are so 100% sure that this person's done this or these people have done this. And the only way you can be sure is you had to have been there. Otherwise, no, you don't know. And you can't undo that damage and the re-victimizing to them that you have done. And it's okay for you because you'll move on. They won't. All that takes a toll on people. I don't wish that for anybody. I don't want to be a part of that. It's also up to people that are listening to these cases to do their own research and make sure you get facts and you have knowledge about the case. Don't just believe what one creator is telling you or blindly follow a creator, including me. Please do your own research. So, in saying that, 2 cases come to mind. 3. There was Summer Wells. If you know anything about Summer Wells who went missing, would I have the parents of that child my children? Not in a million years. That's not how I live. But just because people have little money and their house is untidy or a mess doesn't make them unalivers of their own children. Is it the way I would bring up my children? Definitely not. And I believe most people wouldn't. But that still doesn't make them somebody that is going to unalive their own child. That doesn't mean to say that they wouldn't either. But like I said, unless you were there, we got to stop this finger pointing because we don't like how they live, how they look, what they do, what they get into. And that's basically what it boils down to. Like Sebastian's case, I myself believe that, sadly, the sides become more about the breakup between Katie and Seth opposed to Sebastian. If you are truly there for Sebastian, then there should be no sides other than Sebastian's side. There should be no degrading of either parent because you didn't live there. And every photos that I have seen, Sebastian is happy with both parents. Yet you have creators saying, oh, look, when he's with Katie, his mum, he's not happy. Look at his face with a big smile on his face. When he's with Dad, Seth, look how happy he is. You are reading too much into that photo because I don't see any different. That child looked happy with both parents. And you don't have the right to say he doesn't love his mum, he doesn't love his dad, he doesn't love Chris. You don't know who he loved. I'll guarantee you Sebastian loved all three of them. But yet we had more focus on the separation that happened 8 years ago, 9 years ago, than about Sebastian. We had more focus on the things that went on between Katie and Seth, opposed to Sebastian. And I don't know if you've ever been in a family court where they go through custody of children and you listen to them run each other down. It becomes battle for the children. Neither one of them are thinking about the child. That's the sad part. Yet, that's what was happening in this case, only on one side. And as I've said, my piece to Seth, my issue with you, and the splitting of sides come from you because of your focus on your breakup and the things you have put out. Yes, I understand the anger. Trust and believe I understand the anger stage with a missing child. I understand the drive and the determination to find your child. But at the same stroke, as I've said before, if your child was standing there, would you say them same things about his mother? What would Sebastian want you to do and how to treat his mother? What would he want his mother to do and how would he want her to treat his father? You're all going through this. I don't know if any one of yous were involved. Do I believe one of yous were involved? No, I don't. I truly don't. But in saying that, the things that have been put out, I can see both sides doing wrong things. We all make mistakes in parenting. I'm sorry to say there is no such thing as a parent, a perfect parent. I'll rephrase that, a perfect parent. But to battle the degrading of a parent, I don't agree with. I understand the hurt, the pain, the anger, but how is that helping anybody to find Sebastian? or speak about Sebastian, I still hope that that young man is found and comes home. I truly do. But the people that say they love this child or they're there for this child, yeah, I agree with that. I honestly agree with that myself. And I sincerely hope that I don't think so at this point because of what has gone on. And I can kind of understand it. The sad part is if Sebastian does come home, you all have to somehow work through everything that's been said and the accusations that have been made and work together to parent this child and be there for him. Even if he's an adult, if he returns home at 18, that you're still his parent. He's still going to need you. I would rather hear the things Sebastian liked doing, the places he went, the fun that he had, the hobbies that he had, the things he loved doing, opposed to the breakup that happened years ago. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in your breakup. I'm interested in your son. I don't want to get involved in your relationship or your divorce or anything else. I'm sorry, I just don't. So I did find, and I'll show this to you. I don't want to remove it. No, put myself in the wrong spot. Okay. So the dark side of true crime reporting. This is a recent report. I've looked through a few of them, but this is the most recent one that I could find. This is December 18th, 2025, Health Day News. Grieving friends and family of homicide victims of missing people often feel pressure these days to participate in true crime podcasts or documentaries in hopes their testimonies will help catch the killer. But this relationship is not very healthy for those trying to cope with their loss. Recent research argues. Excuse me for a minute. I just need to take a drink, a mouthful of drink. And please forgive my voice. I haven't been well. Just getting, it's going. Okay. True crime productions often add to the trauma experienced by victims' loved ones. Researchers report in a pair of studies published in the journals Mass Communication and Society and Crime Media Culture. These co-victims often come away with lost privacy and a sense of being exploited, and must balance that against their desire to keep the case in the media spotlight, researchers said. There's a horrible intrusiveness that's never going to go away, and often it's going to be covered for the rest of their lives. Researcher Kelly Bowling said in the news release she's an assistant professor at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln College of Journalism and Mass Communications. On the flip side, being available to media helps them find leads in certain cases, especially in missing persons cases, added Bowling, who was involved in both studies. It keeps people talking about the cases, which is true. These cases, these missing children, missing people, need to be out in or covered so that it reaches more people, in hopes that somebody does see a missing person or a missing child, recognises them, and contacts the police. And the more that it's out in public, the more chances of that happening. But what a horrible position to be put in, to keep your missing child out there. You want to get on podcasts and trust that they will do the right things, documentaries, and unfortunately, they're not, because they're re-victimizing victims. On the flip side, being available to media helps them find leads in certain cases, especially missing persons cases, added Bowling, who was involved in both studies. It keeps people talking about the cases and sometimes helps them change the narrative and correct inaccuracies. For the studies, researchers conducted in-depth interviews with 20 co-victims who'd had their loved ones' stories told through true crime media. Co-victims had 5 major concerns related to their experience with true crime productions: inaccuracies, sensationalism of their tragedy, loss of privacy, which my problem with any of these, but the loss of privacy after you're a co-victim of a crime and people are putting your address out there, showing pictures of your home, your family, etc. And you're now even more at risk. Your fear rises because if you have to remember, if these people have their cases out there because they don't know who did whatever to what crime they're going through as a co-victim, he feared that they would live every day not knowing, especially if one of their family members were unalived, they would be looking over their shoulder anyway. And then we want to put out addresses and deep dive into their past, their friends' past, everybody in their family's past, and find the most horrible things they did many years ago and put it out there. I don't agree with that. I really don't. And I don't think it's necessary. Uncomfortable interactions with consumers of true crime content, including trolls. I agree with that. Lack of control over how the stories are produced and edited. Now, I already knew most of these. In one anecdote, study participant Chris Hallowell describes watching television series about the disappearance of her best friend, presumed unalived victim Susan Cox Powell. I just watched it and we just sat there and were like, whoa, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's not true. That's not. Wow, this is really bad. They shared her story, but they sure got a lot of details wrong. Hallowell said in the Crime Media Culture article. And that happens quite a lot because they don't check facts. They try and fill in the blanks, let's be honest. They try and fill in the blanks themselves and come up with their own versions, narrative, even what that person was like without even knowing that person. Bill Thomas, brother of homicide victim Kathy Thomas, described the harm that can come from overly lurid true crime reports. If true crime media is not well done and not respectful, then you're left with the very uncomfortable reality that this media outlet has sensationalized your loved one's case or gotten details wrong or produced content that is disrespectful, sensationalized, distasteful, and may ultimately end up making you feel terrible about the whole experience, Thomas said. In other words, re-victimized as a co-victim. The co-victims also complained about the ghoulish behaviour of some true crime affliction, oh, let me see how that's pronounced. I do apologise. Sorry. No, there you go. Oh, no, you're not even going to do it. Come on. Oh, dear God. Sorry, everyone. I apologise. Oh. Sorry, I'm just going to put myself back up here for a sec. Please forgive me. I am sorry. I just need to do this. I am very sorry. Oh, and I'm sorry for the bang too. Oh my God, why is it doing this? I am really very sorry. I don't usually have to do this. Okay. Where is that word? I've had people come to my, oh, no, we're up here. Disrespectful, the COVID, about ghoulish behaviour of some true crime aficionados. It's all right. And amateur sleuths. Maybe if I put my glasses on. I've had people come to my home, in my family's home, and literally look in our windows. Could you imagine how scary that would be? I would be outraged if that was me, to be honest. Having people just walk up to your home and look in through your windows after you've been a co-victim in a crime. I mean, God forbid if they allow people to grieve or deal with the worst time of their life. And they want these people to behave in this box that they feel they should behave in, because somebody who has never been through anything like that feels they have the right to say, this is how you should behave. Literally look in our windows. Come to our back doors when we didn't answer the front, because there's this sense of entitlement, 100%, with these people that become so obsessed and they think that they're onto something and they don't have the full set of facts. 100% agree. And they think that they're entitled to everything, as if my missing sister is public property, said Julie Murray, sister of missing woman Maura Murray. That is, God, I am so sorry for these co-victims, sincerely. And I am so sorry for the times that I myself have said the wrong thing about these cases. Like I said, I'm not guilt-free either. But I hope people will call me out, or the family members or that would contact me and say, hey, get it right. Honestly. This has even led to online abuse, said Collier Landry, Laundry, son of homicide victim Noreen Boyle. People were trolling me saying that I was responsible for my mother's death because I told my mother about my father's affair. Dear God. And if I had just kept my mouth shut, she would still be alive. Landry told researchers, and I would engage with these people, and it was just to no avail because, of course, they then say more and more infuriating things or incendiary comments just because they're again looking to get a reaction for whatever reason. On the other hand, co-victims feel the need to interact with the media to keep their loved one's case alive. Like I said, a catch-22 for these co-victims, these loved ones, that they have to trust the devil because that's what these people are becoming. And unfortunately, the same people that are happy to sensationalize this, to accuse people, to say the most horrible things about co-victims, have no empathy, don't treat these people as human, and don't realize who they are inciting, the hate that they are inciting on these co-victims. But trust and believe if it was them, they would be screaming. The one thing all creators go on about is being doxxed out here. Nobody knowing their names, their legal names, and nobody knowing where they live, etc. And I can understand that. But then you're happy to do it to people that are grieving and once again going through the most unimaginable tragedies and don't know how to deal with it, are trying to deal with it, and then you want to add all this stuff on top of it. All the accusations, the digging, the entitlement, the thinking you know all the facts. The police will never give you all the facts. Never. True crime reports can draw public attention to a case and increase pressure on police and prosecutors to solve a case and pursue justice for victims, researchers said. 100%. True crime reports can draw the missing person cases and the cold cases tend to be more dependent on media long term. Sadly, very true. So they maintain a more positive overall impression of the media because they are so dependent on keeping their loved one's name out there, Bowling said. The co-victims interviewed felt that there should be standards. I agree. And possibly laws. I agree. In place to protect them while they shared their story, not ours, not the reporters, not the podcasters, not any of us. It's not our story. It is theirs to share. We can put the facts out there, get their names out there, where they're missing from. That's it. possibly laws in place to protect them while they share their story and seek justice. They didn't distinguish between journalists, professional production crews, or armchair detectives invading their privacy. Researchers said all ultimately were harmful if they didn't act ethically. 100%. They didn't distinguish between who was flying the helicopter that was over their house or trying to take photos of their backyard. Everything was media to them, Boiling said. They didn't distinguish if this is a local news outlet or some independent production. In their mind, everybody should be held to the same standards. Nobody should be allowed to do this. I agree. The research team is now working on a paper about how true crime productions can be done more ethically without causing further harm to co-victims. I went into this research as a media scholar, and my thought was that the only way to properly tell a story is by a trained journalist who is following journalistic ethics. And if you're not, learn what them ethics are. But we found that co-victims said no. The only way to tell these stories is to have the co-victims tell the story. And I agree with that. 100%. But don't love bomb these co-victims to get them up for you to question them. Let them tell their story. Don't think you have the right to judge how they should be feeling or shouldn't be feeling, how they should react, how they shouldn't react. Don't tell their story. Just put out the facts. Don't you tie your emotions to their story, because it's not about you, not about me. It's about them. They were very clear that only another co-victim would have the empathy and respect to tell a story that anybody outside that lived experience could not do it justice. She concluded, ethical true crime has to be victim and co-victim centered. And as you can see, more National Centre for Victims of Crime has more on true crime and media ethics. This link will be down in the description below. I will be putting all these in the description when I'm finished below. So that people can, like I said, read this themselves, look over it. If you're a creator, look at the ethics. Like I did, have empathy and try and understand before you start talking about any case. Before you hit that live, try and imagine you being in that position. And everything you're about to say, would it be acceptable if somebody was saying that about you? If you truly care about these victims, we need to change how we cover these crimes and these victims of crimes, these missing people, these missing children. It is not up to us to solve the case. You can help, as police say, putting stuff out in public helps them. But report to police, not what you've heard from a podcaster who is just speculating. Please don't do that. Don't waste the police time. I covered Samantha Murphy from Ballarat here in Victoria, Australia, who went missing. And they do have somebody in prison for her, which I won't delve into on here. I've done 2 videos so far. And I have never bring her children into it, or her husband. And her husband was accused for doing something to Samantha. And yes, I get the whole, it's usually the husband, the boyfriend, etc. But it's not always them. Her daughter got up in front of the media. They still haven't found her mother. They know she's deceased, but they haven't found her. Because the place where she went missing, there's a lot of old mines there, or mine shafts. I pray they do find her. But her daughter got in front of the media and spoke through streaming tears and begged those people who were blaming her father of doing something to her mother to please stop. Leave them alone. You have to be one heartless person to see that child in that state, her beautiful daughter, begging people to stop. And it still didn't stop. And yet they were wrong. The person that did it didn't even know them. It was, unfortunately, the person that's accused, I'll rephrase that, I do apologise, because he hasn't been to trial yet. But the person accused of doing it didn't know them, never met them, never been to their business, just happened to be, unfortunately, a chance opportunity, a mistake. A mistake that cost Samantha her life. An accident, possibly, because he was in the car and she was walking. I don't know, but sadly, it cost her life. And her 2 children now lost their mother and still haven't been found so that they can bury their mother, have a funeral, say their goodbyes. And I pray, because apparently they have a heap of evidence that it was this person, a heap of CCT footage, video footage. They say they have that much, that it is unprecedented. It is the most footage they've had for any case. I just pray, if he did do this, I hope that he does the right thing and says where she is. For the family's sake. I mean, knowing that that's happened to your mum and they've got the person. See, here in Victoria, no body, no release. So the accused person, this guy, goes to jail, is actually found guilty. He will go to jail. But unless he says where he put her, he will never be released. And I hope that's enough for him to go and tell them, so they can bring her home and go through that process themselves. And people leave them alone to do that. The same as, God forbid, if Summer Wells or Sebastian is ever found, leave the families alone to deal with it. All of them. Don't need to be there hounding them, don't need to be talking about them, don't need to be invading their privacy, their grieving, whatever they are going through. Like I said, if you've never been through a crime or lost somebody through a crime, even if you have, just because the way you dealt with it, you feel is right, it's not. Everybody deals with it, with things differently. We don't all have the same ways to deal with things. That's it. We don't all fit in this box. God, life, we would all be bored because we'd be virtually talking to ourselves. Think about that. If we all behave like one another, life would be very boring, unfortunately. So how I deal with something is totally different to how somebody else deals with it. Sadly, the mystery and the thrill and the entitlement of these cases and the finger pointing and the you thinking you know how these people lived, how they treated their child, how they, from photos, from a couple of videos, is outrageous. And I'm going to say this. This really hit home for me when, if you know BJ, or allegedly with Brittany, who had her partner in the background a week or so ago, making threats to Chris, yet the things that BJ herself has said, and she's one of many that has said about Katie, but this man threatens or puts him in amongst threats, is absolutely when it hit home for me. Because if he is like that, then imagine how many others in your chats are like that. How many others that aren't even in your chats that are just watching, that you accuse. Mind you, they've had death threats. And that's not me siding with them, by the way. I'm just putting out the information that is fact. They have had death threats. So you don't know who's watching. When you are talking about co-victims like that, you are absolutely inciting hate. And you are putting people at risk. You are endangering them in so many ways. And you would be outraged if somebody did that to you. To make up names for these co-victims, that's another thing that is so outrageous. That drives me absolutely insane. How old are you? That is something I dealt with at high school. I don't expect that kind of stuff to come from adults. Sorry for a minute. Sorry, I didn't want to cough in anybody's ear. So the other thing I will cover, but I do want to, I can remove that one. Okay. Sorry. It's of course the advocacy side of it. Because, here's another one that, look at the harm that hidden true crime have caused. One, I will never understand why you are imposing yourself on co-victims and crossing the boundary that should never be crossed to push into their personal space, knowing exactly what you're doing. I will never understand. Yet, like I keep saying, these same people would not tolerate it being done to them. And sadly, most of it's about the money that they're making. I feel that, well, me personally, if and when I'm ever monetized, trust and believe that if I cover a missing child, monetization will be turned off completely. And I will ask that people donate to a place that helps missing children in whatever country or state they're in. But that's me. So advocacy is another big problem for me. When people say something to them, I hear this quite a lot. Words are becoming so watered down. I'm an advocate. I advocate for them. Well, like I said, I have a certificate for that. That I had to have here in Australia before I could advocate for anybody's behalf. And before I could work in the job that I was working in back then. But nonetheless, an advocacy is about empowering the person you are advocating for. It's about helping them with their needs or networking for them, finding them counselling or helping them to find counselling, helping them to find somebody if they're going to have to go to court, help them find somebody that will be there in the court with them or can be there in the court with them. But it's about, and should always be at the end of the day, working on empowering that victim or that person, not disempowering them. Not about you making decisions for them. So, in saying that, the types of advocacy involves promoting the interests or cause of someone or a group of people. An advocate is a person who argues for, recommends or supports a cause or policy. Advocacy is also about helping people find their voice. You can't use it and call yourself one to get them on your panel, to interview them and yell and scream and carry on and say, no, but I'm an advocate. No, you're not. Because you dump these people, these co-victims or victims, as soon as another headlining case comes along. It's like the people that cover a case day in, day out, every day for months and months and months and months and months. I don't understand that. Nothing changed. There's no new information out there. How are you talking about one case every day? Because it's about the interest that one case is getting and about clickbait, let's be honest. So, I will say that again. Advocacy is also about helping people find their voice. In other words, empowering them. There are 3 types of advocacy: self-advocacy, individual advocacy, and system advocacy. The CED is involved in all areas of advocacy for people with disabilities and their families. Self-advocacy. Self-advocacy refers to an individual's ability to effectively communicate, convey, negotiate, or assist his or her own interests, desires, needs, and rights. Self-advocacy means understanding your strengths and needs, identifying your personal goals, knowing your legal rights and responsibilities, and communicating these to others. Self-advocacy is speaking up for, of course, oneself. So this is the one here. In individual advocacy, a person or group of people concentrate their efforts on just one or two individuals. There are 2 common forms of individual advocacy: informal and formal advocacy. When people like parents, friends, family members, or agencies speak out and advocate for vulnerable people, this is termed informal advocacy. Formal advocacy more frequently involves organisations that pay their staff to advocate for someone or for a group of individuals. And of course, system advocacy is about changing policies, laws, rules, etc., etc. But this was my main point in this. It's about getting people, one, talking to them, finding out what their needs are, making phone calls or helping them find a good counsellor or find a counsellor, find whatever they need at that point. It's about, yes, standing up for that person. But it should ultimately, your goal should be to empower that person for them to find their voice, for you to help support them in doing that. It should also be about you helping them understand how they can find the things they need themselves. Like I said, empowering people. So for me, like I said, I have made mistakes and said things I shouldn't have said. Nothing awful, like really awful, but still nonetheless, that if I think about, if I was the person going through it and heard me, I wouldn't be happy about it either. Even prior to me ever starting the channel, I have got caught up in watching a true crime creator who I liked, who become very good at pointing the finger at co-victims saying they are guilty of this. And I actually, a couple of cases, actually thought, yeah, you're right, they are. But they weren't. The fact that I put that energy out there, sadly, is so sincerely wrong of me. And I, of all people, should know better. And I hope the ones of us that should know better and the ones that do know better help educate those who don't. But like I said, it only takes you to stop and think before you hit that live. If you are for the victim, there are no sides in the one victim. If nobody has been arrested, do not accuse anybody of doing anything. Don't put your accusations on anybody. Make sure you do your research and put the facts out there. Make sure that if you do or you are going on your opinions, make sure your audience 100% knows that it is your opinion and your opinion only. It is not fact. So with that, I will end this here. I was going to go over Colby Ryan's video, but I decided against that because I don't want to do that to Colby Ryan. However, I will be putting his link in my description in hope that anybody that listens to this, please go over and watch, hit that link and go over and watch Colby Ryan's video about hidden true crime. Because you got to remember, Colby Ryan, the son of Laurie Daybell, that guy has been through hell and back. Let's face it. But if you are interested in this, then please go and watch his video. Like I said, after I've finished, I will be putting his link in this video too, to the video he brought out about his feelings. I will also put Kesha's link in here, who also is Kay Woodcock's daughter. She too is a co-victim. And she has been treated horribly. Her mum also feels like she was used. So I hope you all do me that favour. Thank you to those who were here and joined me. I very much appreciate it. Thank you for interacting with me. And I wish you nothing but loving light. And once again, I apologise to anybody that has been a victim of a crime. I am so sorry it happened to you. I sincerely believe you are a survivor. And nobody deserves to be a victim of any crime, regardless of their race, regardless of who they are, regardless of how much money they have, regardless of their job description, regardless of where they live, regardless of whether they do or don't work. Nobody deserves to have their life taken from them from another human being. We don't have the right to play judge, jury, and executioner. But I am truly sorry, like I said, and I hope you know you did not deserve that. Anybody that has been a victim of crime, no matter who you are, what you had, what you were doing, what you were wearing, etc., please know that you did not deserve to be made a victim of any crime. Once again, thank you for joining me in this. Please, if you haven't, please subscribe. If you like how I presented this, please subscribe to the channel. And take a moment to hit the thumbs up. I have been away for a while. I'm not going to explain that at this point. But this will be possibly the last video, first and last video I'll do this side of New Year's. So I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a very safe one. A very family, friends fulfilled Christmas and New Year's. Please take care of yourselves and one another. Please remember, the one thing I always say is be kind to other people. Kindness costs nothing. Take a moment out of your week, if you're out shopping, especially this time of the year. If you're out shopping, it costs nothing to say hello to somebody who may just need that. That might completely change their day. It costs nothing to help somebody with their groceries. Whatever it is, please take a moment out of your time to help somebody else. Remember, you are all beautiful. Beauty has nothing to do with your looks, your body type, nothing. It is about who you are, how you present yourself, how you treat others, and about your heart. Please take care, everyone. Loving light once again to you all. And I hope to see you after New Year's and hope to have you back here. Thank you once again for joining me. Please take care. Bye, everyone.